Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow.
Hey everybody, welcome to the broadcast. We've got breaking news. I broke this last night on Sean Hannity's broadcast, but this is a major development. One I will say I predicted when I said that the investigation into the Clinton email scandal was a complete faux investigation, a fake investigation, that it was never an investigation, that the fix was in from the beginning, that there was never going to be real evidence reviewed. We now know that for fact. How do we know that? The Senate Judiciary Committee received documents from the Office of Special Counsel. Now, that's not Bob Mueller's office. That's an internal government office that included information. And in that information were draft letters of exoneration to Hillary Clinton, declinations of prosecution authored in April. She was not interviewed until July 2nd. The case was closed July 5th. And that evidence is now public. Let me give you headlines from Fox News. Comey began drafting exoneration statement before interviewing Clinton. By the way, 3 months before that. Trump slams rigged system over Comey-Clinton probe before it ended. And this is exactly true. The president said it was rigged. He said, wow, looks like James Comey exonerated Hillary Clinton long before the investigation was over, and so much more a rigged system. Absolutely correct. Politico. GOP senators, Comey drafted statement clearing Clinton before her interview. By the way, before the interview of 16 other witnesses as well. The Hill, GOP chairman, Comey may have cleared Clinton before interviewing her. Then the transcripts from it actually show interviews with members of James Comey's staff where they said, yes, in April, in the early spring of 2016, he wanted to, quote, lean forward. The witness said, we know where this is going. There'll be no prosecution. Let's start working on the draft statement. And that draft statement was written by James Comey. So we're calling for a federal investigation of this. We are sending a Freedom of Information Act request in. That Information Act request will say all records leading up to and including James Comey's declination of prosecution of Hillary Rodham Clinton. That was made before, again, before, months before, the interview of 16 witnesses, including the interview of Hillary Clinton. We knew it was fake. It was fake from the beginning. I said it was a faux investigation. That's precisely what it is. And now we've got the documentary evidence showing precisely what this is. By the way, when Andy Economo joins us, senior counsel for the ACLJ, he's a former U.S. attorney. I was a Treasury lawyer. He worked for U.S. Attorney's Office. That's not the way investigations are being done. Now, Fan, let's go to Washington, D.C. Let us know what is, because this came out of Senator Grassley and Senator Lindsey Graham's offices.
Well, this kind of development, Jay, is exactly why we were sharing information with the Senate Judiciary Committee about our FOIA, because remember, we'll get into some of these details, but James Comey's chief of staff, which is involved in what you're just talking about, he was also one of the people involved in creating the talking points after the tarmac meeting. So, Jay, you've got the situation where all of the same people involved in all of these scandals, and this particular one might be the worst. I mean, put very simply, here's what happened. The FBI, under the directorship of James Comey, made their decision, and then they did their work. They made their decision, and then they went back and they did the work. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Well, yeah, this was cooked before. I mean, this was home cooking. This was done before anybody started anything here. I mean, the target of the interview is scheduled for July 2nd. You write your declination letter exonerating the person in April before you interviewed 16 witnesses. You tell me what kind of investigation that is. We've got a lot more on the shadow government, but I want you to engage on the issue, too. We've got a petition up to put an end to this. ACLJ.org for that. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. That's ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 to end the shadow government.
It's an unprecedented bureaucratic coup undermining our security. The Obama administration took action to empower the entrenched bureaucracy to subvert our national security right before leaving office. It has led to dangerous leaks, criminal violations of the Espionage Act, and the creation of a shadow government to sabotage the new administration. This dramatically endangers our national security and has led to dangerous classified leaks. At the ACLJ, we're fighting back. We're filing legal demands of the bureaucracy to expose the actions of the corrupt Obama administration, stop the soft coup and the rampant leak of classified information, and protect our national security. Add your name to our new petition to stop the shadow government and protect our national security. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
So Tham Bennett just brought up a really good point. Their witnesses were given immunity in this transaction about the Clinton email investigation, including Heather Samuelson but also Cheryl Mills, who also served as a lawyer during this, which I'm still trying to figure out how she was both a witness and the lawyer. That's another question. And then you have a secondary aspect of this, which is they were granted immunity, these two witnesses, but James Comey wrote his letter exonerating Hillary Clinton 3 months before these witnesses were even interviewed, including Hillary Rodham Clinton. And this is after the tarmac meeting. And by the way, that whole justification that James Comey gave, remember that whole song and dance about to save the integrity of the Department of Justice and the FBI, I had to come forward after the tarmac meeting? What a liar. I mean, he already had decided this case 3 months before the tarmac meeting. In fact, in the testimony, the sworn testimony that was given to the Office of Special Counsel, again, that's not Bob Mueller's office. That's inside the government. This is, here's the question. We talked about the outcome of the investigation. How did the idea of the statement come about? That's the exoneration statement. Answer, sure, we were talking about July 5th, correct? Yes, July 5th. Well, this is what he says. I'm going to read this exactly. So sometime in the spring, again, I don't remember the exact date, but early spring, I would say, the director emailed a couple of folks. I can't remember exactly. I know I was on there, and this, by the way, is the deputy. This is his chief of staff and senior counsel, probably the deputy director. What I call the briefing group did not get it, but a subset of that to say, they got the information, knowing the direction the investigation is headed, right? What would be the most forward-leaning thing we could do, right? Information that we could put out about it, and this is what his testimony says, and he sent a draft around of, what it might look like in early spring. I mean, do you understand what has happened here? In early spring, there is no justification for this prosecutorially, investigatorily. This is a sham on the American people. Andy?
Well, I wanted to just say something about this immunity. I, as a prosecutor, gave immunity to people because I couldn't get enough on them to prosecute them, and I needed them to prosecute somebody else. That's generally why you immunize someone from criminal prosecution. But the idea that you immunize someone because you need their testimony to get someone higher up or is more responsible or culpable, and then not interview that person, not examine that person in depth and debrief them in depth is unheard of.
The lack of trust level, now again, there are a lot of great FBI agents out there doing a great job, but the trust in the institution is got to be at an all-time low here, Harry. I mean, and let me take one other step here. What they did is unprecedented, but the people paying the price here, I believe, are the American people, because James Comey, and I read the testimony, predetermined the outcome of this from the beginning.
Absolutely. So, in essence, the election outcome was foreordained. If you go back
Except that Hillary Clinton didn't win.
Absolutely.
They thought she was going to.
Everyone was stunned because you had DNC collusion designed to prevent Bernie Sanders from prevailing in the Democratic primaries, coupled with a shambolic FBI investigation designed to exonerate Hillary Clinton. Everyone was justifiably stunned because we had collusion for 18 months in all likelihood.
But this was exoneration 3 months before the main testimony. Now, it's at the Senate Judiciary Committee. What's happening there? Then we're going to take your calls and comments, folks. This is an unbelievable outrage.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank goodness that James Comey is no longer running the FBI. I mean, that's the institution above all the others that has to have the confidence of the American people, and it just doesn't. But, Jay, again, I want to stress this point. At the Senate Judiciary Committee, yes, they're looking at this, but they're looking at all of the pieces that fit together on this, and one of them is a key one that we provided to them just a couple of weeks ago. The testimony that you just read, Jay, came from James Comey's chief of staff. Well, James Comey's chief of staff, Jim Rybicki, he was also one of the ones that drafted the talking points after the tarmac meeting between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch. So all of these pieces fit together. And again, it underscores the importance of our FOIA work. You have to get a piece here, and then they fit together with pieces that the government can come up with.
You remember when James Comey said he was made mildly nauseous when people said he was involved in the political campaign? Well, let me play for you what another one of his statements, which is making all of us maybe mildly nauseous. This is number 7.
I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout the investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear. I know there were many opinions expressed by people who are not part of the investigation, including people in government, but none of that mattered to us. Opinions are irrelevant.
Yeah, by the way, let me tell you something else that's irrelevant, evidently. Evidence. That's what I said. Opinion is irrelevant? Well, to you, Mr. James Comey, former FBI director, you know what else seems to be irrelevant or relevant or irrelevant, I guess? Irrelevant? Evidence. Because you wrote your declination letter and statement 3 months before you gave the witness interviews of the key witnesses, including the target of the investigation. So I want you to explain that to the American people under oath or maybe in front of a grand jury. Because and people can say, oh, that's Jay Sekulow is being really tough on this. The American people have been lied to. A fraud has been committed on the American people. That's what this is. I've been saying this, by the way, for a year. I knew where this was going. I knew what this was. I did not have this evidence. And now that we have this evidence, which is uncontroverted, the fact of the matter is, and I don't think there's any other way to say that, this was a sham. This was a faux investigation. It was fake. And the American people had to pay the consequences of this. And this is shakes your, I was on radio, TV last night with Ari Fleischer. He said it has shaken his trust in the great work of the FBI. And look, the FBI does a lot of great work. Let me tell you where they did not do great work on this investigation. Complete sham, and I'm glad we played that bite, because what James Comey said there, of course, this is a guy that leaked conversations he had with the President of the United States. So you just put that in your analysis. But more important than that, really more important than that, or equally as important, is the fact that this whole process was tainted from the beginning. Let's go ahead and take a phone call.
All right, continuing on, let's go to, a lot of people called in right at the same time. Let's go to Carmen, who's calling West Virginia on line 5. Carmen, you're on the air.
Hi, Carmen.
Hello, Mr. Sekulow.
Hey.
I've been listening, and I agree with you 100%, just to keep the call brief, because I know you have a lot of other ones.
Yep.
I have one question.
Yep.
What can we do? I'm an American citizen, and I'm outraged. I've been watching Obama and all his administration for 8 long years. I'm a private investigator, and I have been looking at him and all that's been going on critically. And you're absolutely right. We saw this back last year. We all knew what the truth was. And they're corrupt, they're liars, and they're not above the law.
Well, here's what let me tell you what's going on here. There's a series of issues, both formally done, and that will be, we're going to submit a extensive FOIA request for all records leading up to and including James Comey's declination of the prosecution of Hillary Clinton. That will include, of course, these statements. That's number 1. Number 2, the FBI needs to be investigating. In my view, Andy, the FBI needs to be investigating this now.
Well, I think definitely
Chris Wray needs to just start the investigation of James Comey and this whole process.
Right, Jay. Chris Wray came in supposedly as a clean, new director of the FBI with a spotless record, and I know of him. He's from Atlanta originally. where I'm from, and he worked in the government under Larry Thompson, the Deputy Attorney General, who's a friend of mine and a friend of ours and of the ACLJ. And Chris Wray needs to put some emphasis on looking at Comey right now critically for violations of not only his oath of office as the director of the FBI, but possible leaks that he committed and lies that he perpetrated upon the American people. I still cannot get over the fact that they were circulating a declination letter in the early spring of 2016 before 17 witnesses had been interviewed and 2 who had been given immunity were not interviewed.
He makes a statement in he's asked the question, so that was early spring. Yeah, that's his answers. That was early spring. So earlier it said April. Then it says, and this is the question, and I think we've maybe seen that the email where he sent it out, it was early May of 2016. Does that sound right? The answer from Rubicki. That sound right. And then he says, but quite honestly, that strikes me as late, a little late. But again, he goes, I definitely remember the spring. So this was April or May. So, Harry, is there there's no legal justification for this kind of action? None.
Absolutely not. There's not a scintilla of evidence which supports James Comey's statement on July the 5th, 2016, that the FBI conducted an honest investigation. That is essentially an intellectually dishonest claim, and it was an intellectually dishonest claim that is provably false based on the evidence available today. And we should go back even further. More likely than not, the investigation was not an investigation. As you have said on many occasions, it was a faux investigation from the get-go.
We've got a lot more on the shadow government, but I want you to engage on the issue, too. We've got a petition up to put an end to this. ACLJ.org for that. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. That's ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 to end the shadow government.
It's an unprecedented bureaucratic coup undermining our security. The Obama administration took action to empower the entrenched bureaucracy to subvert our national security right before leaving office. It has led to dangerous leaks, criminal violations of the Espionage Act, and the creation of a shadow government to sabotage the new administration. This dramatically endangers our national security and has led to dangerous classified leaks. At the ACLJ, we're fighting back. We're filing legal demands of the bureaucracy to expose the actions of the corrupt Obama administration, stop the soft coup and the rampant leak of classified information, and protect our national security. Add your name to our new petition to stop the shadow government and protect our national security. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Well, you talk about pulling one on the American people. James Comey did that. He said, he went through that whole aspect of why he had to make the public statement because of the tarmac meeting between President Clinton, former President Clinton, and Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and that tainted the view of the Department of Justice, and it was creating all kinds of issues and problems, and it was embarrassing for the department. So you make the statement, he had to make the public statement where he basically lays out the elements of the crime that she violated and then says, nevertheless, no prosecutor would have prosecuted this case. By the way, that wasn't his job. So that's the job of the Attorney General. And if the Attorney General was disqualified, which, of course, she did not recuse herself, Loretta Lynch, but if she did, you would have gone to the deputy AG. But in either case, he didn't do that. But why bother? Because 3 months before, he wrote his declination letter before he interviewed witnesses. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is how bad this is. That you've got the FBI Director drafting his declination letter, that is his letter saying I'm not going to recommend prosecution here, 3 months before he interviews 17 key witnesses, including the target. So he pulled one on the American people. He didn't pull it on Congress, though, because they're now in it, and so are we. We're getting off a FOIA request on Tuesday. I suspect they won't answer, and we'll be in federal court. But we're not taking this. This goes to the heart of the corruption that was going on here, and it's unacceptable in a constitutional. It's unacceptable in any circumstance, but in a constitutional republic, especially so, with separation of powers. And this is the idea that they think they could. James Comey, he plays holier than thou, self-righteous, and thinks he's going to get away with this. But he's not, because he's been caught. And he's been caught by members of the Senate. And as Than said, I think it's important Than say it again, it connected dots we laid out for them already.
Well, they got information from James Comey's chief of staff, Jim Rybicki, about this particular issue where he started drafting the exoneration statement early. But, Jay, we provided them just 2 weeks ago the fact that his chief of staff was also personally involved in drafting the talking points after the tarmac meeting. So, again, the government finds one piece, we find another piece, you put them together, and you start painting the accurate picture.
It is
you
an
start
ugly
painting
picture.
the facts, Jay, which Director Comey said was all he cares about, which we know is not the case now.
Oh, I mean, this guy, for him to get up there and do this at this point, and, when all that attitude he gave at the House and Senate hearings are ridiculous. Now, you see what you got here. 3 months before the case, he writes the declination letter. And is sending it through his senior staff at the FBI to say, how can we get this to go through? All right, let's go ahead and take some calls. We got a lot of people holding.
Yeah, let's go to Joseph in California on line 4.
Joseph, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Jay. It dawned on me a while back, there was a letter that came to light that was drafted from the DOJ, Lynch's DOJ, that was sent to the Clinton campaign, basically saying that they weren't going to let the investigation go anywhere.
Right.
What I'm wondering is, was that letter drafted right around the same time?
I don't know. There was, and I haven't seen that document, but there was reports of a document that said, "Don't worry, this isn't going anywhere." And remember, James Comey did say that Loretta Lynch, Andy, told him this was not an investigation of Hillary Clinton; it was a matter.
A matter, and we know what an investigation is. We also know what a matter is, and when you demote the inquiry from an investigation to a matter, you're directing somebody to downplay it. That's exactly what you're doing.
Downplay it. They already, I don't know when she said he told when Loretta Lynch said call it a matter, but here's what does matter. It was already decided. The case. This wasn't happening.
Absolutely. So James Comey had no authority
Nor
to
incentive at that
exonerate
point. Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. He had no authority to rewrite the statutory language, removing intent. Adding intent to the statute. No intent was required. He had no authority to leak documents to the New York Times.
Right.
And no authority to lie to Congress.
Yeah, what do you expect? It's a guy that has a conversation with the President of the United States and decides to leak it to the press. All right, James Comey, here's what he said, number 20.
At one point, the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me. But that was one of the bricks in the load that led me to conclude I have to step away from the department if we're to close this case credibly.
All right, I'm breaking this down line by line because this is a liar. This is a false statement by James Comey. At one point, the Attorney General directed me to call it an investigation. Well, it wasn't an investigation, to not call it an investigation. She didn't want to call it an investigation. Well, he didn't have to call it a matter because it wasn't even a matter. He already decided what it was going to be. Nothing. So that's number one. But instead, call it a matter, which we know he's already written the exoneration letter, right? Which confused me, he said. He said it confused him. It confused him about what? Confused him about what he already wrote an exoneration letter. So he's confused about nothing. So let's be realistic with what he's saying. And then he had to step away from the department? Really? You had your chief of staff, you're already sending him your declination letter 3 months in advance. Take another phone call, Logan.
All right, let's do it. Let's go to Chris in Illinois on line 1.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jay, how are you today?
Good.
Great job.
Thanks.
I have a question, I guess, an idea. What do you think about President Trump having a special counsel investigating the special counsel leaks?
I don't think you have to have a... Well, we're talking about the special counsel leaks. What special counsel leaks are you talking? The Office of Special Counsel that we're talking about in this case, Chris, is not that's not Bob Mueller's office. Okay, it's called special counsel. Special counsel in Bob Mueller's case is appointed for the purposes of the Russia probe. This is a standing office inside Andy DOJ.
That's correct. That it is a separate office altogether, not connected with Robert Mueller, not connected with the Russia investigation or whatever it's called that he's looking into right now. So it's a different animal altogether.
Yeah, so that should answer that question. Let's keep taking calls, or you want to go? I cannot believe 30 minutes of this broadcast is done.
Phil in Kalamazoo is on line 6. You're on the air.
Hi, Phil.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good.
God, I guess I'm frustrated in that you hear all this stuff. By the way, I love what you're doing with your ACLJ office and the religious freedoms and all this stuff. But I guess I'm frustrated in hearing about Lynch and Comey and both the Clintons and all that, that nothing is ever going to go and happen to them.
But that's not. But Chris, Phil, first of all, I appreciate you calling, but it's not true. I mean, take a look at the IRS case. We beat the Internal Revenue Service. I said this. I've been saying this for a week. The IRS of 2013 is not the IRS of 2017. They're not able to target conservative. I trust they can't. I say trust. They're under court supervision right now. So, and we're trying to get an injunction on that fact. So, but according to the Court of Appeals, they engaged in an activity that wasn't appropriate, wasn't constitutional, violated statutory law. They say they're not doing that anymore. So the whole but I could tell you from experience as the litigator, right now, we're not getting calls from conservative organizations being targeted by the IRS. Why is that? Because there's been a sea change. So you're not. These does not mean it results in incarceration. I said that yesterday. But this matter needs to be fully investigated civilly and, I will say, criminally as well. That's going to do it for the broadcast today. Again, if you want to stand with us in our fight to expose this, we encourage you to sign our petition involving this shadow government, as it's called. You can do that at ACLJ.org. That's the easiest way, ACLJ.org, or 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or ACLJ.org.
It's an unprecedented bureaucratic coup undermining our security. The Obama administration took action to empower the entrenched bureaucracy to subvert our national security right before leaving office. It has led to dangerous leaks, criminal violations of the Espionage Act, and the creation of a shadow government to sabotage the new administration. This dramatically endangers our national security and has led to dangerous classified leaks. At the ACLJ, we're fighting back. We're filing legal demands of the bureaucracy to expose the actions of the corrupt Obama administration, stop the soft coup and the rampant leak of classified information, and protect our national security. Add your name to our new petition to stop the shadow government and protect our national security. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.